If you were a Pokemon fan back in the 2000s, you would remember Pokemon's battle simulation games. Back before the mainline games had quote-unquote good graphics, whatever that means. These games were created to show off Pokemon battles with 3D animations. You are supposed to customize your trainer with Pokemon from the Gen 4 games, but what if you don't have any Pokemon? The game's solution is rental passes, which provide the player with a full team of Pokemon to battle with, and the only problem is that the Pokemon are bad, like really bad. So today I challenged myself to beat the game with only rental passes. Here are the rules. I can only use rental passes for all the battles, I have to unlock all the rental passes, and I have to beat every Colosseum. And as a bonus challenge, I want to complete all 8 sets of the Masters battles. We start the game with a choice between 2 rental passes, Novice Nate and Sprout Trainer Cindy. The choice doesn't really matter since you can immediately unlock the one you didn't choose, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity to rank the rental passes. Novice Nate is the obvious choice in my opinion. His team is more well-rounded, with Pokemon that have varied movesets, non-stab moves, and items that enhance those non-stab moves. Sprout Trainer Cindy, on the other hand, is just okay. The movesets are a bit worse, and the Pokemon are just bad. I went to the first Colosseum, Main Street. This is your traditional knockout 3-on-3 singles battle. The computers are pretty weak, so don't worry and you'll beat it no problem. Leader Taylor was an easy win, but she also had a great team mascot in an S-tier cosplay. Waterfall Colosseum has, as far as I'm concerned, the most interesting battle mechanic in the game. These team battles require the player to choose 5 Pokemon, and then they fight a series of one-on-one battles. The first to 3 wins is the overall winner. I went into each arena blind, so this took a few battles to get used to, but this is also just the second arena, so it was pretty easy. Leader Marina was a very easy battle though, and her Kyogre cosplay was a great A tier. The Gateway Colosseum is the most important place in the whole run, as this is where the player can unlock extra rental passes. You might be wondering why I didn't visit this place earlier in the run. One reason is because I'm an idiot, and I didn't know that you could unlock Sprout Trainer Cindy from the start. Another reason is because after defeating the Waterfall Colosseum, you are able to unlock 2 more rental passes. Beginner Trainer Tommy is definitely a C tier, but New Star Daisy is the best rental pass, S tier. This Colosseum brings us back to the 3-on-3 singles knockout battles, which are pretty easy. Especially because I was using a pass with some of the best rental Pokemon, I had no trouble blazing through this Colosseum until I faced Leader Joe. Despite his lack of cosplay, I'll give him a B tier just for his style alone. The battle was pretty easy, and I unlocked Daisy's rental pass. The Neon Colosseum is the first roadblock in this run. This arena's gimmick is Fortune Battles, where yours and your opponent's teams are chosen by the power of RNG. And like the power of RNG, it usually screws you over. Both teams of Pokemon are placed onto a spinning wheel, and you have to time out your selections to pick the right Pokemon. The NPCs in this Colosseum have bad Pokemon, so try to make sure your team is mostly made up of your own Pokemon. At first, I could not find out how to time my selections, and I ended up with really bad teams and losing a lot of battles. After some experimenting, I found that if you press A right when the desired Pokemon reaches the bottom of the wheel, you have about a 50-50 shot of getting it. And hey, that's better odds than what I previously got. But after way too many tries on this Colosseum and failing to get past battle number 3, I decided to switch over to the Crystal Colosseum. The Crystal Colosseum specializes in tournament battles, which just means it's knockout battles with extra steps. A lot of the trainers use ground and rock types, so the duo of Lumineon and Bellossom were able to deal with most enemies. It was a pretty easy win, which I really needed after struggling with the Neon Colosseum. Anyways, back at the Neon Colosseum, I found a brand new strategy. Turns out, if you pick a team of bad Pokemon, your opponents won't be able to have any good Pokemon. I switched from New Star Daisy to Sprout Trainer Cindy, and I had a lot more success. It still took me a few tries, but I was eventually able to clear this Colosseum. In terms of difficulty alone, I think this has to go into the puts the challenge in challenge run tier. The roulette wheel really keeps you on your toes, especially when your opponent lands on your Pidgeot for the 20th something time. The leader is Rosie, who has an A-tier Roserade cosplay. Her team is pretty good compared to the previous trainers, but you still want to keep the strategy of sticking to your own team. The Sunny Park Colosseum is the most bland and boring, because it's just back to knockout battles, but this time it's 4-on-4 doubles. It is more difficult than Main Street, but to say it's challenging would be a big stretch. After a bunch of rounds of mild battling, I reached Leader Sachet. She gets a B tier because I'm not even sure what she's cosplaying. Is it a Drifloon? A Miss Magius? A Drifblim? Anyways, the battle was so boring I didn't even feel the need to script anything about it. Sunset Coliseum is the most infuriating part of this run by far, so much so that I'm immediately putting it in the internal screaming tier. Remember all the strategy I've been talking about when picking rental passes and deciding which Pokemon to send out? Yeah, forget all that because this Coliseum's gimmick is select battles. The description doesn't make it sound that bad. Instead of selecting rental pass, you and your opponent select from a list of rental Pokemon for each battle. The problem is that these Pokemon are terrible. Now one might think that if both opponents are using bad Pokemon, then the battles are pretty even matched, right? Wrong. While your selection of Pokemon is completely left up to RNG, your opponent's team is limited to a regular list of 6 Pokemon with good movesets. You can choose Pokemon from your opponent's team, but that's not enough to turn the tables. Leader Dusty was an insanely hard battle for all the wrong reasons. His team building was always somehow so much better than what I chose, even though we basically used the same Pokemon. Either way, he's getting an A-tier cosplay because his Lucario outfit is fire, but I'm not giving him anything more than that. The Magma Coliseum is the home to League battles, which are just knockout battles with a round-robin tournament system. I beat all 5 battles even though I really only needed 3, and I continued on to the final round. There's no special battle gimmicks, and Leader Terrell uses a lot of fire Pokemon, so it was a pretty easy sweep with Lumineon Surf. Also, Terrell has an A-tier Groudon cosplay. Courtyard is the most unnecessary Coliseum in the game. It suffers from being yet another set of boring knockout battles, 4-on-4 doubles, but it has a unique gimmick. Sometimes a fog rolls onto the battlefield, causing every Pokemon to lose accuracy. Isn't that such a fun and great and definitely not infuriating mechanic? Leader Kruger is at the end of this Coliseum, but the only notable thing about him is that he looks like he came right out of the Twilight universe. He also looks like a rectangle, so he goes in C tier. And last but definitely not least, we have the final Coliseum, Stargazer. This is home to the Poketopia Championship, where you battle through 6 previous leaders in knockout battles. Then you challenge Poketopia Master Mysterio after a terrible costume. To my surprise, the leader battles were all quite easy. As I said earlier, I went into this run blind, and against my better judgment, I didn't bother to strategize going into this final stretch. But all the leaders use the same teams as they used in their debut battles, which makes them a lot easier. I honestly thought this run would be a lot more challenging than it is. I'm in the final part of the main game, and I'm still facing weak, unevolved Pokemon with bad movesets. The most challenging match was Voldon, since my team didn't have any main counters to Steel or Electric. Even then, I was still able to win easily with Lopunny being the last one standing. Master Mysterio was my final boss, and okay, I cannot make this sound interesting. Lumineon and Blossom started the battle, but were only to deal a little chip damage before going down. And you might think this is where it gets challenging, but no. Sneasel and Lopunny come out to sweep the rest of the team. Sneasel gets Golbat, Haunter, and Dragonair, while Lopunny chips away at Whiscash. I am so sorry. This was such an underwhelming conclusion to the run. I truly thought it would be more challenging. But fear not, dear viewer, we still have the bonus challenge to complete. We're back at it again at the old Gateway Colosseum to unlock the last rental passes. After beating the Stargazer Colosseum, some of the other Colosseums have changed battle formats. Gateway's new gimmick is trade battles, where you can swap Pokemon with your opponent after a battle. I don't know why you would do this though, but hey, maybe you want to actively use terrible Pokemon. I unlocked the last 2 rental passes. Fresh Woman Natalie is the one I was super excited to use, but super disappointed upon using it. Seadra is the star of the show on her team with excellent attacks, ability, and item. Togetic and Pikachu sound great on paper, but they're just okay. Vespiquen, Dugtrio, and Charm are good, but they could use a lot of improvements. Rookie Joel has absolutely no synergy. The star of his team is Machoke, who has a near-perfect setup. The odd part is that he has a lot of Pokemon that have fire, ice, ground, and fighting type moves. But he also has plenty of Pokemon with those types. There's way too much overlap and close to 0 type variety, definitely the worst rental pass. Now that I've completed my main challenge, it is time to attempt my bonus challenge, Master Battles. Like I said earlier, after you beat the game, some of the Colosseums change their battle format. There's Little Battles, where you have to use level 5 Pokemon, and Survival Battles, where you have to see how many battles you can do in a row. Masters Battles are challenging knockout battles, where you have to defeat 3 strong trainers, then challenge one of the leaders. There are 8 sets of increasing difficulty, and they are absolutely, incredibly, undoubtedly impossible. I found out that you can actually rearrange the Pokemon on the rental passes, so I created a team out of all the best rental Pokemon. The team is made up of 5 core Pokemon: Sneasel, Pidgeot, Blossom, Seadra, and Machoke. All of these Pokemon have great synergy between abilities, typing, movesets, and held items that make them extremely useful. I left 1 slot open for a Pokemon to rotate into when the time is right. Set 1 started off very challenging. I was immediately able to notice the difference in the Pokemon the opponents used, the moves and movesets of the Pokemon, and the intelligence of the CPUs. I was able to defeat it on the first try, but it was not without a lot of effort. The leader was my main man, Joe, who is just as easy as he was in the Gateway Colosseum. Set 2 was incredibly difficult. The first battle was a bit tricky at first, but I was able to consistently beat it with the right strategy. The second battle was awful. Master Class Jaden was designed to infuriate the player with the most stupid defensive stall strategy. She usually starts with Tentacruel and 1 other Pokemon. If it is Bibarel, they swap between Protects and Acupressures to raise their stats. But if it is Ambipom, she will immediately start attacking. Take out the Tentacruel first though, since it spams Hydro Pump. I was able to block this with a combination of Blossom and Lumineon, who were able to set up Sunny Day, tank water moves, and deal chip damage with Energy Ball and Psybeam. After Tentacruel falls, look out for the Pokemon in the back. Seaking has Hornedrill and Megahorn, which are extremely inaccurate but powerful. Chimecho is dangerous with Hypnosis and Psychic, and Drapion is a hard hitter with a combination of Acupressure and Night Slash. After adjusting my team and strategy way too many times, I was able to beat this battle. Sometimes. Battle number 3 wasn't notable, which takes us to Leader Sachet, and even though I failed the first time I faced Sachet, I had really good luck the second time. Machoke came in clutch, taking out her Spiritomb, Vespiquen, and Weavile, and Sneasel and Seadra provided support, with Seadra taking out her Gengar. Set 3 is where I stopped. I honestly would have kept working on beating all the Masters battle sets, but I wanted to get a video out this century. Set 3 Battle 2 is the most difficult challenge I have ever faced in this run. They lead with either Steelix or Golem, and Drifblim or Mismagius. Either one of these two will use Explosion on the first round guaranteed. I adjusted my team so many times to try and win, but the rest of their team is so formidable I just couldn't do it. I adjusted my team a lot, specifically just to win this battle. Like I learned to lead with Pidgeot and Sneasel, then immediately switch out from Pidgeot to Rotom to avoid a ghost type attack. Sneasel would then team up with Rotom to take out the remaining ghost types, but it was improv from there. I was barely able to win once and make it up to leader Kruger, but that's when I decided I just needed to give up and make the video. His team is full of strong, fully evolved Pokemon with great movesets, and I lost very quickly. And that's when I looked at Bulbapedia to see what the next sets had in store. Did you know that they start using legendaries in set 4? I'm stuck using a Sneasel and a Seadra, but this random guy gets multiple legendaries? Going further with this bonus challenge would have easily delayed this video by a couple months. And that's assuming that I have a chance of winning in the first place. Not to mention that set 8's final boss uses exclusively legendary Pokemon. I'd rather quit while I'm ahead and count set 2 as my win. Would I recommend that you attempt this run? Oh god, no. The most challenging parts of this run are hard for obvious reasons. In the Neon Colosseum, the battles are almost entirely luck-based, with the opponent's Pokemon being so terrible that getting them on your team is a death sentence. With the Sunset Colosseum, your team doesn't even matter, since you choose from a list of terrible rental Pokemon. And in the Masters battles, they're just so incredibly hard that even using a team of OP custom Pokemon would be a challenge. And the rest of the game is just super easy. There is definitely a difficulty curve, but it is a lot less than I expected. As it turns out, the game doesn't really expect the player to use exclusively custom Pokemon until the post-game. So all the battles were designed with the thought that the player is using rental Pokemon in the first place. Not to mention that the different battle formats don't really change up the battles all that much. The league battles and tournament battles are just knockout battles with more steps. The team battles are the only ones that required more thought than just the standard battle formats. Ultimately, the run didn't live up to expectations, but that's okay. I needed an easy run after the massive time investment that was my BDSP challenge run, link here. Sometimes it is fun to have a challenge that doesn't end up being as challenging as you thought it would be, and at the end of the day, it's not about how difficult the run was, but about the tier list you made along the way. Wait a minute. But despite my disappointment in this run, I do want to keep it going. I'm going to keep trying on the Masters battles to keep progressing further into the post-game. I also want to try Stadium and Stadium 2 with rental Pokemon only, so look out for those videos in the future. Thank you for watching and see you later.